This happened a few years ago, and for a long time I convinced myself it was nothing more than a weird night mixed with exhaustion. But the truth is, even now, whenever I'm the last person in an office, I make sure I'm not. Back then, I was working an entry-level job at a mid-sized company. Nothing exciting. Open office floor, gray carpet, buzzing fluorescent lights. The kind of place where everyone watches the clock after 4 p.m. We weren't supposed to work late. In fact, management actively discouraged overtime because the building officially closed at 7. That night, I stayed anyway. I was behind on a project, and I didn't want to deal with it the next morning. Everyone else packed up like normal. One by one, people shut down their computers, grabbed their bags, and said their goodbyes. By 6:45, it was just me and the cleaning crew. At least, I thought it was. Around 7, the cleaners finished their floor and left. I remember because I heard the elevator ding and the door slide shut. After that, the office felt different. Quieter than it had been all day. Not peaceful quiet. Empty quiet. I put my headphones on and kept working. At some point, I realized the music had stopped. I looked down and saw my laptop was still on, but my headphones weren't connected anymore. I hadn't unplugged them. I shrugged it off and reconnected them. A few minutes later, I heard footsteps. I assumed it was security doing a round. That wouldn't have been unusual. The building had overnight security, and sometimes they'd walk through the floors just to check doors. The footsteps didn't sound like that. They were slow, heavy, like someone walking without any urgency at all. They stopped somewhere behind me. I didn't turn around. I told myself if it was security, they'd announce themselves, or clear their throat, or do something to let me know they were there. Nothing happened. After a few seconds, the footsteps started again, this time moving away. I waited another minute, then finally turned around. The office was empty. Every desk around me was dark, computer screens black, chairs pushed in. The only lights on were above my row. I went back to work. Around 8:30, I got an email notification. The sender was facilities. The subject line read, "Reminder, building closed." I opened it. The message was short. It said employees were not permitted to remain in the building after hours without prior approval, and that all remaining staff should leave immediately. I checked the timestamp. The email had been sent at 7:12. I hadn't seen it until now. I started packing up my things. That's when I heard the footsteps again, this time closer. I stood up and looked around, calling out, "Hello." My voice sounded too loud in the empty office. No response. The footsteps continued, slow and steady, moving between rows of desks. I couldn't see anyone, but I could hear them clearly now. I grabbed my bag. As I shut down my computer, my screen flickered. Just for a second. I thought it was powering off, but then text appeared. Not an error message. A sentence. "You're still here." I stared at it, trying to understand what I was seeing. Then the screen went black. I didn't wait. I headed for the exit, moving quickly but not running. The hallway lights were dimmed, set to night mode. As I passed the conference rooms, I noticed one of them was lit. That room was always locked after hours. The door was open. Inside, the lights were on, and someone had left papers spread out across the table. Chairs pulled back, like a meeting had just ended. I stood there for a second, frozen. Then I heard a chair scrape against the floor. From inside the room, I backed away slowly and turned toward the stairwell. I didn't want to wait for the elevator. As I reached the stairwell door, my phone buzzed. Another email. Same sender. Same subject. Reminder. Building closed. This one had one extra line. Please stop moving around. I didn't open the stairwell door. I ran. I took the elevator instead, jabbing the button repeatedly until the doors finally closed. As the elevator descended, I watched the floor numbers light up, my heart pounding. When I reached the lobby, the security desk was empty. The lights were on, but no one was there. I didn't stop. I pushed through the doors and walked out into the parking lot. Only one car was there. Mine. The next morning, I asked my manager about the email from facilities. He looked confused and told me facilities doesn't send emails directly to employees. I forwarded it to IT. They couldn't find a record of it. I asked about security rounds that night. They told me there was no overnight security scheduled on my floor. I never stayed late again. And even now, when I'm working late somewhere and I realize I'm the last one left, I shut my computer down because whatever was walking through that office that night, it noticed I was still there.